Karoline Leavitt believed she could say annihilation on air and airing abroad afterwards consequences. But one acknowledgement aimed at Jasmine Crockett triggered a political and acknowledged storm that dismantled her career about overnight. Almost 15 account into the Alive advertisement from Austin, Texas. The activity in the flat shifted. The console featured a calendar of acclimatized voices, experts in politics, law, and media. Yet, the restriction that followed didn't arise from action disagreements or accessory debates. It began to back Karoline Leavitt leaned forward, a breast beam on her face, and said article that would ascertain her accessible angel for years to come. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, April Dallas, had aloof announced calmly and anxiously about how Chase shapes perceptions of administering in Congress. Her accent wasn't confrontational or emotional, aloof factual. There's consistently an apprehension to arise palatable, abnormally for women like me, she said. If I'm direct, I'm alleged aggressive. If I'm quiet, I'm apparent as unqualified. That restriction is real. That's a back Karoline interrupted. Well, maybe, she said, articulation blubbery with sarcasm. If some bodies chock full arena the victim and acted like absolute leaders instead of active at the victimhood campaign, we'd see added account in politics. The allowance froze. Jasmine's announcement accustomed slightly, but she didn't speak. The adjudicator austere her throat uneasily. Karoline kept going. Honestly, Jasmine, bodies don't abolish you because of your bark color. Sorry, but it's because you act like anybody owes you something. That's not leadership. That's entitlement. The adjudicator went still, a babble bouncing through the audience. Jasmine backward silent. Again in a calm, abiding voice, she replied, I don't charge anyone to owe me anything. I assignment for my community. I allege with confidence because I backpack ancestors abaft me. And if that makes bodies uncomfortable, good. Her articulation didn't rise, but her words landed with precision. Oral minutes. The barter was everywhere. Clipped, shared, and debated aloft amusing media. Hashtags trended. Commentators alleged it aggregate from a blow to the affectation slipping. TikTok creators drew parallels to celebrate examples of coded accent and bias. Abaft the scenes, the arrangement was in chaos. Producers scrambled. PR teams drafted statements, and Karoline's aides begged her to apologize or at a time to clarify. But she didn't see it as a mistake. A back camera is cut to commercial. She shrugged and said loudly, I said what everyone's thinking. She aloof didn't like audition it. She couldn't see what she had unleashed. What she had anticipation was boxy talk. Millions saw as targeted humiliation. Jasmine didn't storm off or argue. She adapted her mic, sat agilely and waited for the abutting question. That accord batten louder than annihilation abroad, she could acquire said. Viewers weren't aloof reacting. They were analyzing. Commentators and advisors began breaking bottom-worthy exchange, calling an arbiter case of avant-garde gaslighting bearded as political debate. But for Jasmine, this wasn't about viral outrage. It was claimed and able aspersion advertisement nationwide. Her aggregation anon started accession transcripts, video clips, and acknowledged notes. And again the adventure deepened. Hours later, a loft staffer from Karoline's appointment anonymously leaked clandestine bell letters, suggesting the blow and affronted tactic had been pre-planned. By sunrise, the blow had surpassed 12 active views. It bedeviled YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and cable news. But what bent people's absorption wasn't abandon the words. It was the anatomy language. Karoline looked smug, alike proud, while Jasmine's calm blackout agitated an altar affectionate of strength. Aloft the country, the barter became a cultural beam point. A Aerial Academy ABC'er in Memphis acclimated it to Alpha, a chic altercation about account and politics. A pastor in St. Paul referenced it in his Sunday sermon. Academy Acceptance in Arizona printed quotes from it and taped them on account boards beside the byword word's backpack weight. So due consequences. Still, not anybody was critical. Karoline supporters, abnormally in bourgeois media, rushed to avert her. She aloof said what others are abashed to say. One radio host in Tampa argued, if we can't claiming chase narratives, what's larboard of chargeless speech? Others approved to reframe it. It wasn't racist, aloof edgeless honesty. Why can't we criticize bodies of blush afterwards actuality labeled? But this time, that aegis didn't hold. The blow didn't abide in the breast anymore. And oral hours, journalists began apprehension more. Karoline's accomplished comments began resurfacing. A 2019 Academy accent area, she absolved the abstraction of absolute bias. A 2021 podcast area, she joked about cipher switching for white comfort, and a deleted cheat that declared Congresswoman Crockett as advancing with a blow of ghetto. Anniversary adumbration, added pressure, and all eyes angry against Jasmine. She hadn't said abundant publicly. Aloof one cheap acquaint budding to midnight. Words acquire power. To blackout is to participate. My aggregation and I are reviewing all options. Accountability matters. That distinct bulletin set aggregate in motion. Oral minutes. It was retweeted bags of times. Civil rights groups arise statements of for sunrise. High-profile attorneys bidding support. And celebrities with millions of followers reposted Jasmine's blow with captions like, "This is why we allege out, and we got your back." By midday, Jasmine's name was trending on Bristol's law platforms. She hadn't chased the spotlight, but now it was durably on her. Her Dallas district appointment overflowed with flowers, letters, and hundreds of emails. One handwritten agenda on lined cardboard stood out. "My babe saw you allege and said she wants a run for appointment one day. Thank you for blockage, back others approved to agitate you." But Jasmine wasn't cerebration about attention. Her focus was on purpose. "I'm not accomplishing this for clicks," she told her arch of staff, Samira, in a bankrupt Aperture affair that afternoon. "This isn't about the moment. It's about the message." Samira nodded. "So are we activity legal?" Jasmine didn't hesitate. "Yes, all the way." They knew the risks. Arduous, arresting media amount would atom backlash. The bourgeois columnist would alarm at censorship. Critics would characterization her emotional, thin-skinned, or allege her of weaponizing race. But Jasmine was done absolution bodies adumbrated bath honest address to advance disrespect. "We acquired to stop normalizing ancestral insult as allotment of the job," she told her acknowledged advisor afterwards that day. "Not for me and not for the budding bearing watching." By Aboriginal evening, Jasmine's aggregation issued an official statement. A accusation was actuality drafted, gluttonous 80 actor in damages, both claimed and professional. The cardinal wasn't random. It was ample abundant to accomplish headlines, austere abundant to appeal attention, and elusive abundant to accelerate a message. There's a amount to bridge the line. Some outlets alleged it bold. Others absolved it as political theater. But the aloft ones leaned in. The L.A. Times ran an advanced folio beat blue-blooded the amount of blackout in a loud world. NPR aired an articulation analytical coded accent, and it's a pulse on atremendous women in politics. The civic chat was alive, and Jasmine was at the center most of it. No one expected, however, how bound Karoline's authority with Alpha annoyed already accumulated sponsors began to react. Aback, the acknowledged filing assuredly dropped. It hit like thunder. Filed in Harris County, Texas. Jasmine's acknowledged aggregation fabricated, abiding the case would disentangle on her agreement in her home accompaniment beneath a microscope that had witnessed its allotment of high-profile trials. The certificate was 63 pages long, airtight, and detailed. Every adduce from Karoline's on-air remarks, every resurfaced tweet, every accessible account anxiously documented. Annihilation larboard accessible to interpretation. The $80 actor amount wasn't aloof for shock value. It was anxiously burst down, accoutrement blow of credibility, reputational damage, affecting distress, and the abiding abuse to Jasmine's able angel and leadership. But aloft numbers, it was about principle, and Jasmine's aggregation was determined. Leading the case was Advocate Brandon Keyes, an action specialist from San Antonio, accustomed for his accord and absorption in court. Body said he never aloft his voice, yet juries afraid on every word. Jasmine admired that about him. "I appetite facts, not fury," she had told him afore he accustomed the case. Brandon was methodical. He stood on the courthouse, accomplished beside Jasmine and Samira, speaking with absorption and control. "This isn't about political disagreement," he said. "It's about brash aspersion and the accessible abolition of appearance bearded as dialogue. Reporters captured every word. Jasmine backward bashful until the end, again Batten afterwards notes, I've a parent what happens, a back you let things slide. A back you beam it off, a back you booty the aerial road. Bodies anticipate they can accumulate going, but words matter. This accusation isn't aloof about me. It's about every atramentous woman who's any time had to accomplish herself abate aloof to fit into spaces she's earned. The army fell silent. Inside Karoline's camp, agitation had amorphous to spread. What started as simple circuit ascendancy had angry into absolute blow control. Sponsors began calling. Contracts were paused. One aloft arrangement abandoned, an accessible DOA alternation, aloof canicule afore filming. Her inbox went quiet, her buzz chock-full ringing. And alike her longtime agent, the one who already alleged her the approaching of bourgeois media, agilely distanced himself. Still defiant, Karoline arrives a video from her home in New Hampshire. She didn't apologize. Instead, she angled down. This is a witch hunt. Cancelability on steroids. I said what I said, and I won't airing it back to amuse the abuse mob. But the harder she pushed back, the worse it became. Aloft interns began speaking out. Bearding sources leaked emails assuming Karoline had encouraged Cardinal front aback agreeable, accelerating women of color. Absolute it wasn't an accident, but a tactic. Meanwhile, Jasmine went back to assignment on Capitol Hill as if annihilation had changed. She abounding boondocks halls, voted on legislation, and met with constituents. She capitaled to appearance the accessible she wasn't ambuscade abaft a lawsuit. She was continuing aloft it. Still, it took a toll. Samira could see it. One night, afterwards a backward meeting, Jasmine sat abandoned in her appointment staring at her phone. Her do-ride hovered over a message. You okay? Samira asked. Jasmine nodded, but the blackout lingered. You can say you're tired. I'm not tired, Jasmine whispered. I'm calculating. Every move affairs now. The burden was immense. Her inbox overflowed with support, but additionally with criticism. Some thanked her for continuing firm. Others accused her of arena the chase card, abject the system, or adding people. She didn't reply. She knew her acknowledgement would arise in court. Brandon abled the case with surgical precision. Depositions were scheduled. Witnesses lined up. A ambassador from the live console agreed to testify, acknowledging that Karoline's animadversion were ad-lib and confused the accent of the altercation immediately. I've been accomplishing this for 20 years, the ambassador said. I've never apparent annihilation acreage like that. Acknowledged experts began belief in. The appearance discussed it. Acknowledged Zoom, a rise of breakdown. CNN's acknowledged analyst commented, it's attenuate to see a aspersion case is clear. The context, timing, and arrangement are undeniable. Still, the accident was real. If Jasmine lost, the backfire would be fierce. She'd be branded as performative, accused of block money, and mocked for aggravating and declining to weaponize appearance politics. But burden doesn't consistently crush. Sometimes it refines us, and Jasmine had never been sharper. The day afterward the accusation fabricated civic headlines. Karoline absent a speaking assurance at a Kansas university. The official acumen was logistical conflicts, but assembly knew the truth. The administering didn't appetite protests, Bush in the auditorium. A anniversary later. 2 aloft podcast sponsors, both wellness brands with ample online audiences. Agilely cut ties. No statements, no explanations, aloof gone. Still, Karoline banned a panic. She went alive on her own platform, cutting a fleet blazer, beer defiance neatly, sitting afore her accustomed American banderole backdrop. They appetite to blackout me, she said firmly. This is political warfare bearded as a lawsuit. The video acquired traction. Her abject accurate her. But al fresco that circle, accessible assessment shifted. The affair wasn't. The lawsuit, it was the evidence. Screenshots, leaked interviews, and unedited transcripts resurfaced. Anniversary one harsher beneath the spotlight. Alike conservative-leaning outlets began to ambit themselves. A host from a civic account arrangement had initially planned articulation arresting Karoline, but afterward producers re-watched the console footage. He can let it. We're not affecting that, he told his team. Not with a record. Karoline's close amphitheater began to shrink. Her PR administrator took a footfall back indefinitely, a longtime acquaintance chock-full abiding her calls. The blackout wasn't loud, but it was telling. She still had loyal followers online alveolar her talking points, but their ability was fading. Sponsors don't advance in controversy. They advance in credibility. And Karoline was accident fast. Again came the email leak. Addition from her aloft attack aggregate screenshots with journalists. Centralized action addendum auspicious her to arrest advanced women, a blush mid-sentence to bandy them off balance. It wasn't illegal, but it was intentional, and it akin absolutely what Jasmine's accusation claimed. Abutment for Karoline began to crumble. One GOP advisor said privately, "She's radioactive now. This isn't aloof a PR issue, it's an ethics issue." Meanwhile, Jasmine connected her assignment steadily, and afterwards fanfare. She didn't gloat. She didn't call him online attacks. And she didn't charge to. Her blackout abandon fabricated the babble about Karoline abound louder. Brandon, her attorney, brash her carefully. The cloister of accessible assessment is watching. Stay composed. She did until one Saturday morning account afflicted everything. Karoline appeared on a Binding Agenda count show, animated and laughing, aggravating to arise unbothered. Again, the host said, "A lot of bodies anticipate you aloof," said, "What anybody feels abnormally about Jasmine Crockett. Let's be honest, bodies are annoyed at the chase narrative." Karoline didn't actual him. She leaned back and chuckled. "Well, I won't say you're wrong." The 10-second blow went viral by nightfall. And this time, the acknowledgement wasn't aloof political. It was personal. Jasmine's appointment was abounding with belles lettres from educators, veterans, distinct mothers, and aloft aldermanic interns. Bodies who were annoyed of actuality told their appearance was aloof and narrative. Samira printed out the account archetype and abandoned it on Jasmine's desk. "She's spiraling," she said. Jasmine almost looked at the paper. "She already fell," Jasmine replied. "Now she's aloof authoritative thus." Meanwhile, the acknowledged action confused forward. Karoline's attorneys filed a motion to abolish the case, arguing it abandoned her First Amendment rights. The adjudicator denied it. A cloister date was clearly set. Abaft the scenes, added assembly began to defect. Aloft the better accomplished out to Brandon's office. Alms to affirm about Karoline's brash baiting approach during media appearances. Another, an intern who already helped adapt her console notes, provided files assuming Karoline had pre-written blame accessible to use if asserted capacity came up. It wasn't spontaneous. It was calculated, and that adumbration afflicted everything. By the end of the month, Karoline's name agilely abolished from the apostle account of a loft bourgeois conference. A administrator abandoned advancing book negotiations. Her cast was in actuality destroyed by Jasmine. It was annoyed beneath its own weight. Yet, the accessible chat was far from over, and Jasmine's articulation was abandoned, growing stronger. Her bulletin was extensive spaces Karoline never could. Bodies weren't whispering anymore. They were talking in offices, classrooms, active rooms, and beautician shops. And the added they talked, the clearer it became. This was no best about one acknowledgement or one person. It had become absorption of above chat about race, respect, and accountability in accessible life. In Phoenix, a Berghaus Boer affair opened with an apostle referencing Jasmine's case. In Nashville, Average Academy Acceptance wrote essays for Atremendous History Month. About Bisected chose Jasmine Crockett as their subject. The moment had become a movement. Cable arrangements struggled to accumulate pace. Every console had an opinion, but what afraid abounding was who began alive their stance. Formerly aloof or conservative-leaning choir now acceptance that Karoline's arrangement of behavior had gone too far. Not because it was contemporary to say so, but because they were starting to see it through the eyes of their daughters, their students, and their colleagues. She didn't acknowledge it back it happened. One analyst said during a live panel, "That's what addled me." Jasmine didn't shout. She didn't accomplish for the camera. She agitated the weight of the moment with quiet composure. That stillness, bodies kept abiding to it, became symbolic. A Arctic anatomy that said, I've endured this before, but I won't acquire it anymore. Civil rights groups began hosting boondocks halls, not protests, but conversations. A Academy in Oregon captivated around alleged account in accessible discourse. Jasmine didn't attend, but her name alike added than 30 times. Aback, the adjudicator asked, what is backbone and administering attending like? A adolescent apprentice answered, it's alive aback to allege and aback not to adorn ignorance. Meanwhile, Karoline's angel was collapsing. A viral column from a loft acquaintance declared her as addition who advised battle like a game, generally targeting appearance rather than discussing it. Addition assistant aggregate how during a media training session, Karoline had accomplished arresting women of blush to bandy them off balance. It wasn't rumor anymore. It was a chorus. Karoline's defenders grew fewer. A few backward loud online, but drive had shifted. The accusation was no best political strategy. It had become personal, article reel. Back in Dallas, Jasmine connected her schedule. Meetings, academy visits, association fundraisers. But she acquainted the change, too. At a babyish accident in Garland, an earlier woman approached her with artificial bad captivation, a brace of earrings. My mother gave me these aback, I angry 30, she said. She told me they're for speaking your truth. You abrasion them now. Jasmine approved to refuse, but the woman befuddled her head. Don't acknowledgement them. Aloof canyon them advance aback its time. Those moments meant added than any viral post. Quiet gestures of solidarity. The absolute kind. Brandon noticed. It, too. Afterwards action call. He pulled her aside. You apperceive what bodies see now, he said. They see addition who didn't let the insult ascertain the story. Jasmine met his eyes. It wasn't the insult that afraid me, she said softly. It was a pattern. She was right. The ability of her case wasn't aloof in what Karoline had said, but in the arrangement that accustomed her to accumulate adage unchecked. Now blackout had been broken. Teachers discussed the case in agents' trainings on inclusion. A non-profit in Minneapolis alleged Jasmine Woman of the Year for arduous quiet ability with unapologetic strength. She still abhorred interviews and columnist tours, but her articulation carried. At an adolescent's Acme in Tulsa, her abrupt accent trended online. I didn't sue for fame, she said. I did it because sometimes you acquire to say enough. Abundant assuming assertive curve don't exist. Abundant acting like we're too brittle to appeal respect. I didn't appetite a spotlight. I capital a standard. But while Jasmine's bulletin was alarming others, Karoline was spiraling, and her abutting move would abandon aggravate things. Again came the quiet, not peaceful, but heavy. Jasmine, acquainted at best backward at night, aback the abode, was still. And she was no best Congresswoman Crockett or a viral figure. Aloof Jasmine, a daughter, a woman abandoned with her thoughts. She didn't cry, but she hadn't slept abundant either. The action was necessary, but it was draining. Her ancestor alleged that Sunday, Leroy Crockett had fought his own battles. Marched in the 70s, arrested in Baton Rouge during a sit-in. His articulation was blatant now, slower, but it still agitated weight. You captivation up, baby? He asked. I'm all right, she replied. You sure? No, she said, but I'm still standing. She let out a low laugh. That's what we do, he said. We angle there. Again he added article Jasmine hadn't expected. You admonish me of your grandmother, he said. She never a law for articulation either, but aback she looked at you. You knew absolutely area she stood. You've got the aforementioned eyes. Jasmine swallowed. She didn't answer, but she kept that band with her. The lawsuit, the accessible pressure, the commentary. It was a storm, but storms weren't new to her. What kept her activity was that it wasn't abandoning her acceptability on the band anymore. It was the weight of every woman who had been told to be quiet, to be palatable, to sit down. That anticipation kept her from giving into exhaustion. Samira saw the intermid moments, the backward action sessions, the Beanery Arctic Center to her aperture back edition. Alarm came in. The quiet afterwards and bearding email calling her too loud for addition who doesn't belong. One night, Samira asked bluntly. Have you any time anticipation about walking away? Jasmine looked at her and said, Every day. Again, I bethink who's watching. The aggregation tightened. Brandon took added affliction with columnist lines. Alive how fast things could be twisted. Jasmine's buzz rarely larbored her. Every text, headline, and email could be a new mine, but there were ablaze spots. A Academy apprentice from Oakland Beatific, a handmade card, architecture paper, glitter, a note. You attending like addition, I appetite to be aback, I abound up. Amused don't stop. Jasmine kept it in her wallet. Karoline, meanwhile, was fraying abaft bankrupt doors. She airtighted staff, mistrusted a new PR rep who apprenticed blackout, and argued with her fiancé about accessible support. He asked, What am I declared to say? They blurred what you said. She went on Edition podcast. Her articulation trembled hardly as she insisted the altercation was overblown. If we sue bodies over opinions, what's next? She asked. But this had confused the loft opinion. It was pattern, intent, harm. Jasmine's acknowledged aggregation grew stronger every day. Aloft better beatific a recording of Caroline Bedlam, while account abhorrence mail addressed to atramentous changeable politicians, calling it chargeless content. The anecdotal confused from accusation to appearance study, and Caroline faltered beneath scrutiny. Jasmine backward focused, reviewing testimony, prepping with Brandon, ensuring every accessible lying sheet any time fabricated about the case could angle up in court. I didn't arise this far to cruise on an absurd sidewalk, she said during prep. Brandon smiled. You won't. You erring like addition who's been watching the arena her accomplished life. Caroline still had a few articulate supporters online, and popped up on binding sites area her abject cheered. But in absolute life, things unraveled faster than she could application them. One Wednesday, she went alive on her claim channel. Beard pulled back, aphotic circles, articulation sharp. I'm done actuality polite, she said. I confronted hypocrisy. Now I'm actuality sued for adage what Americans should be able to say. She sipped from a mug with an American banderole in frame. The blow drew clicks and rallied her core, but it additionally accelerated fallout. Her better cut Ties 30 account later. A backpack. Remove her from donor lists. A Aloft attack administrator about denounced her. That stung. Addition she trusted alleged to the problem, not the solution. Again on accessory YouTube stream, she fabricated an animated version that accomplished her off. Jasmine's accomplished cast is actuality a victim, she said. A staffer abrupted and beatificate of Brandon. He alleged the acknowledged analyst. You watching this? He asked. Oh, yeah, that's the final nail, came the reply. The blow went viral. A bourgeois columnist arrives belittling appraisal blue-blooded aback actuality appropriate means alive aback to stop talking, arguing Caroline's antipathy was now self-sabotage. Aloft donors agilely distanced themselves. Absolute activity blackout followed. Friends chock full of biting texts. Family told her to sit it out. A accessory alike blocked her. For addition who congenital a career on visibility, actuality airy hurt, she second-guessed everything. Her arranger agreeable action, and begin annihilation that could about face momentum. Jasmine, meanwhile, had been mostly bashful for about a week. No interviews, no appearances, no statements. But that blackout was powerful, stronger than any columnist conference. She focused on alertness and attendance rather than spectacle. The burden was intense, the stakes high, but she kept steady.